by the author and journalist Kate Welsh. Welcome to the programme. Recent free speech rankings survey by Spite said that 94% of UK universities have censored free speech in the past year. Some have no platform, people like Germaine Greer, Roger Scruton, and a human rights activist called Miriam Namazzi. Are you happy with that?
I don't believe it's censorship. I believe that freedom of speech is also freedom to accept the consequences of that speech. And if that means that certain institutions don't want to promote or give you a platform to say these things, then you have to accept that.
Really?
Yes, I do.
That's not curtailing freedom of speech.
No, I don't think it is.
Well,
people like Germaine Greer...
But you've just taken away the freedom of these people to speak at the university.
They can speak wherever they like, but freedom of speech is not freedom to be invited wherever you want.
What's the point of a university if you don't allow a variety of views to be expressed?
A variety of views, that's absolutely fine.
Clearly not if you're Germaine Greer.
I think if students are being asked to pay increasingly higher fees, and I think that if they object to people like Germaine Greer, Julie Bindel, Milo Yiannopoulos, being given frequently pretty hefty speaking fees themselves and being given a platform at their university,
Julie
then I think
Bindel
they have a
doesn't
right...
take fees for that. Julie Bindel does not take fees, and she has worked for 30 years raising awareness of violence against women and done so, thanklessly. And for her to be barred from universities simply because she has a different view to you or some of the people in that university about transgender issues is a disgrace, as it is with Peter Tatchell.
Hold on. Let
to say that they're getting money for it, it's absolutely
Kate Welsh.
I think Julie Bindel has done some fantastic things for women's issues. I will not decry that. I do believe that she has frequently incited hatred against transgender people, and that puts...
But she hasn't. She's defended transgendered people. I've heard her do it. She's done it to me. I've spoken to her about it. She's defended transgender people where all she does is cleave to the notion, which is actually a scientific fact, whether you like it or not, which is that someone who has transitioned from a man to a woman is still technically, essentially, if you wish to call it, essentially a man.
The issue is not what is right or wrong yet. The issue is shouldn't you be able to hear the views on both sides of the argument? And you can't if you ban people. I mean, the Lincoln University, a student union, it banned the University Conservative Association from social media because the association had pointed out that the university had a low ranking when it came to free speech. I mean, this is getting ridiculous.
I don't think that's on the same par as criticising who's being invited to speak at universities, or to say that a democratically elected student union preferring not to sell papers like the Daily Mail.
But why would you do it at all?
Why are you scared?
I'm not remotely scared.
But isn't a university exactly the place where there should be this cross-fertilisation of ideas, of political opinions, a breadth of informed opinion, of contentious opinion, of things which you might find difficult to accept, and things which I might find difficult to accept? That's what we should have at universities. Surely that's the point of it.
But freedom of speech and freedom of expression for minority groups has traditionally been oppressed or made difficult to access by people who criticise their ability to exist, like Julie Bindel with trans people, Milo Yiannopoulos.
Criticise their ability to exist.
We've been around that.
We've been around that.
Yeah. The principal issue here is not the rights or the wrongs of any of these issues. It is that the university, if you're lucky enough to get to one, is one of the few times in your life when you can go along and hear every view under the sun. But in fact, what is happening now is that views are being channeled into a very narrow tunnel. And if you're outside of that with your views, you don't get in.
I think it's a very exciting time to be a student right now. I graduated 10 years ago. We didn't, the progressive movement that's flowering now was really only in bud then. But I think students are turning around and saying no to bigotry and no to hate speech.
Well, they can go along to meetings and say that.
It's only a minority who are doing that. It's the minority in the students' unions who are doing that. And I speak as someone with a kid who's at university who says, actually, all this rubbish, this idiocy, this politically correct nonsense has no purchase whatsoever amongst a wider student body. It has a purchase only amongst the perennially active, amongst the political groups within there. And don't forget as well,
generally
Andrew,
people from oppressed groups. Please remember that. Universities have always been a safe space for straight white men. What we're seeing now is an increase of leveling the playing field for other voices to be heard.
So
and that
what
will
about-
mean removing the platform from one person and giving it to somebody else.
City
Woman,
University.
you remove it from a gay woman.
City University in London, which runs a well-known journalism course, voted to ban the Daily Mail, the Sun and the Express. What's the point of that? You don't have to read these papers. Why would you ban them?
When you're on a journalism course, that's fabulous.
I think Daily Mail and journalism don't always go hand in hand.
No, that's your view.
The most
That's just your view. That doesn't give you the right to vote for banning
their
them.
students from buying it anywhere else. They're saying in this specific
Campus,
in a specific
where
campus.
people are studying journalism. I mean, if you don't like Daily Mail journalism, I perfectly understand that. Journalists should know what, in your view, is bad
It's a
journalism.
commercial boycott. It's perfectly acceptable.
You have to remember as well, Andrew, that it's not just the students. There was the Adam Smith Institute report recently, which suggested that I think it was 85% of university lecturers tended to the left, were liberals, tended to the left.
True, but that's always been the case. That's regularly the case. Pretty much.
Back in the 60s, they did this comparison, it was something like 60%. So still a majority, but nothing like the hegemony within those universities now is all from this sort of left, liberal, censorious, intolerant and authoritarian.
Well, that's your view, I suppose, as well.
Well, yes, I just said it.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of viewpoints,
Yes,
that isn't
yes.
generally accepted by everyone, that is the view at universities.
Right.
Oh,
well,
well,
thank
the
you.
left
We
wing
need to
is-
move on. Thank you very
Thank you very
much for
much.
doing this.
Now, it's...
So how did campuses become this way? How did it become so?
God hates them. I mean, I think that they became this way basically after the 1930s. The 1930s, all the campuses started to move a little bit in the leftward direction. They were taken over, places like CUNY were taken over by actual socialists. But that didn't really manifest until the 1960s. In the 1960s, all of the students decided to rebel against their elders, and all of their elders were pansies, so they basically allowed it to happen. And now all the students are the professors and the administrators.
So when you say facts don't care about your feelings, who are you speaking to, and what do you mean?
I'm speaking to everyone, and I mean facts don't care about your feelings. No, what I mean is that on campus, feelings tend to trump facts. All that people care about is how you feel about something. Their level of argument very often is that hurts my feelings, therefore it's bad, as opposed to what you're saying is false. Those are two different things. And emotional truth is not the same as actual truth. Actual truth matters. Emotional truth just means something that makes you feel good, and it turns out that facts don't care what you feel about them.
And what is your advice for conservatives on campus? It's not the most welcoming environment for them.
If you're on a lefty campus, which actually I recommend, I think that you should use it as an opportunity to bounce off leftist thought. So you can actually read more about leftist thought, and then you can read the responses to it. You actually get a well-rounded education. The people on college campuses who actually don't get the well-rounded education are people of the left, because if you're on the left and you're just hearing all your views reinforced, you're not going to ever hear an opposing point of view, and the first time that it hits you like a ton of bricks. If you're on the right, you can actually turn into a really good conservative simply by learning the arguments of the left, which ones are good, which ones are bad, and how to refute them.
Did you benefit in this way by attending
Oh, for sure.
undergrad and law school at liberal places?
Yeah, for sure. UCLA is definitely like that. I took as many lefty professors as I could find and really enjoyed reading what they had to say and then what the opposing view was. And I did the same thing in law school as well. I think that it makes you into a better conservative. I know a lot of leftist views better than leftists do, which is great when you're in the profession of debating people, which is basically what I do.
And today still, do you sort of engender this aspect of reading opinions that you...
Yeah, no, I make a point of it. I read everything. I mean, I'm a regular reader of everything from Slate and Salon to Huffington Post, and then obviously all the right-wing sites as well as kind of the left-leaning mainstream.
So what do you say to parents of conservative students who are very concerned about going into debt or even not going into debt to send their kid to a place where their values might be upended?
Well, I mean, I think that your values have to be really solid before you go in. I've said this to parents before. If your kid isn't a conservative by the time they're 18, they'll be a leftist by the time they're 21. If they don't go in with a solid set of values, college is designed to undermine those values. If they go in with a solid set of values, then they learn to defend those values in a really excellent way. But the educational process doesn't start with college, obviously. It starts a lot younger.
When you give your facts, don't care about your feelings speech at campuses, what's the general reception you get?
It's been interesting. The people who actually stick around and listen, I think they get something out of it, and folks on the left too. They tend to understand that there's an argument going on, a discussion that's going on. I always make a point of when we do the Q&As, people from the left, we ask them to go first because I want to be able to have a one-on-one conversation with some folks who disagree with me, and it's really useful that way. Then there are the protesters who actually don't care what I have to say and just assume I'm a member of the KKK because we disagree and start riots. Those people are not as useful. The people on the left who show up and want to have discussion, usually it's pretty cordial and sometimes we even find common ground.